Welcome to this explainer. Look, we are constantly analyzing the portfolios, the trades, and the market strategies of the absolute top investors. But today we're doing something totally different. We are looking at their physical footprints. How do the world's most successful financial minds actually choose to live? We're going to use a tier list approach to decode their wealth philosophies and see exactly how their unique mindsets translate into the real estate they call home. To kick things off, just wrap your head around this number right here. $238 million. This represents one of the most expensive homes ever sold in America, scooped up by a hedge fund titan. It is an astronomical figure, right? It sets a massive benchmark for what extreme, top-tier financial success can actually buy in a real world. It's the ultimate status symbol. But then we have this unbelievably small number, $31,500. That is not a typo. This is exactly what the world's greatest investor actually paid for his home. So right away, we're faced with this wild paradox that we are going to explore today. How on earth can two people operating at the absolute highest levels of global finance have such radically different approaches to where they rest their heads at night? Now, what's really interesting is how our 15 source data points actually break down. We're looking at 6 legendary S-tier estates, 6 luxurious A-tier compounds, and 3 very surprising B-tier modest outliers. It's a pretty fascinating distribution that proves right off the bat there is no single right way to live like a billionaire. Here's how we're going to break this down today. First up, legendary S-tier estates. Then A-tier waterfront compounds. Next, B-tier modest outliers. And finally, the wealth paradox. Let's get right into it. Starting things off with our legendary S-tier estates. This perfectly illustrates the extreme disparity right at the very top tier. On one hand, you have Ken Griffin's record-breaking $238 million New York penthouse. It is a towering monument to hedge fund success. But placed right next to it, we have Warren Buffett. The world's greatest investor is still living in the exact same Omaha house he bought way back in 1958 for just $31,500. Both are undeniably S-tier investors, but their housing choices literally couldn't be further apart. Then we have George Soros, another S-tier icon whose real estate totally mirrors his monumental market moves. When you're the billionaire trader who famously made over $1 billion in a single day, your living situation tends to reflect that kind of global macroeconomic dominance. His massive trading success directly funds a truly extravagant global footprint, which is anchored by a gorgeous, luxurious estate right in London. When you look closer at how Soros structures his real estate, it functions a lot like a diversified global portfolio. It's not just about luxury, it's about heritage and protection. He owns historic estates across Europe, luxury residences in the United States, and that incredible London estate we just mentioned. But let's be honest, at this level of wealth and global influence, high security compounds become absolutely crucial. Moving to another S-tier marvel, we have Steve Cohen. His approach is all about building an absolute personal paradise. He uses his massive multi-acre Greenwich mansion to house literal museum-quality art collections. And if that wasn't enough, the property is fully outfitted with professional-grade sports facilities. It's an S-tier home because it essentially functions as a private resort and a cultural institution all rolled into one. Rounding out our legendary tier is the secretive quant trading genius, Jim Simons. Completely fitting his highly private nature, he opted for an enormous private estate out on Long Island that overlooks the Atlantic Ocean. It offers vast space and ultimate seclusion. It's honestly the perfect retreat for a brilliant mathematical mind to just escape the noise of Wall Street. Let's move on to our next category, A-tier waterfront compounds. So the running theme for this A-tier group is definitely water. Take Dalio, for example. He boasts a massive waterfront compound in Connecticut, featuring private beaches, guest houses, and world-class security. Heading south, hedge fund legend Paul Tudor Jones enjoys a luxury Florida estate with private docks and resort-style amenities. And then you have billionaire activist investor Icahn, whose Miami mansion gives him private marina access. For this tier of investor, direct access to the water isn't a perk. It's practically a requirement. Florida is clearly a massive draw for this specific group. Billionaire hedge fund manager David Tepper built an ultra-modern beachfront compound worth over $70 million. And sharing that same spectacular Florida coastline is Stanley Druckenmiller, one of Wall Street's greatest macro traders who owns a spectacular oceanfront property in Palm Beach. The beautiful weather, the ocean access, the space, it makes Florida an absolute A-tier magnet. But hey, shifting gears from the beach to the city, Bill Ackman claims his A-tier spot right up in the sky. He opted for a luxury Manhattan penthouse designed with sleek, modern architecture. So instead of an ocean view, Ackman has these sweeping, panoramic views of the New York skyline. It's a different flavor of luxury, for sure, but perfectly suited for an investor who wants to stay deeply entrenched in the pulse of the city. Now we pivot to a really fascinating category, our B-tier modest outliers. This category completely flips our expectations of how famous billionaires are supposed to live. These are top-tier investors who actively choose modesty. They live far below traditional billionaire expectations. Instead of sprawling mega mansions, they prioritize strict privacy, an extreme, unwavering focus on their investing, and operational proximity to their work. You can see exactly how this mindset plays out in practice here. Michael Burry, the trader who famously predicted the 2008 crash, strongly prefers extreme privacy over flashing his wealth with a mega mansion. And similarly, Cathie Wood is well known for maintaining a relatively modest personal lifestyle. For both of these investors, their energy, time, and resources are hyper-focused on their investments, rather than curating massive real estate portfolios. And as a fun bonus investor to our list, Elon Musk took this B-tier philosophy to the absolute literal extreme. He reportedly sold nearly all of his luxury homes to live in a small, prefabricated house. Why? Because it placed him right next to his Texas operations. It is the ultimate example of prioritizing operational proximity over luxury, sacrificing the traditional billionaire estate just to be as close to the work as physically possible. Which brings us to our final section. The wealth paradox. We have seen everything from record-breaking penthouses to tiny prefabs today. When we actually visualize the specific dollar amounts given in our sources, it is genuinely mind-blowing. Ken Griffin is towering on this chart at $238 million. David Tepper is heavily represented at $70 million. And then there is Warren Buffett. His legendary S-tier status as the world's greatest investor is backed by a property that barely even registers as a sliver next to them at $31,500. It proves once and for all that the amount of wealth you possess does not dictate the size of the home you have to buy. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative question. Think about it. Does extreme wealth actually require an extreme home? Or does your real estate simply reflect your unique investing mindset? Whether it's Soros's global historic footprint, Dalio's waterfront security, or Buffett's humble 1958 purchase, it really seems like the home doesn't make the billionaire. The billionaire's philosophy makes the home. Thanks so much for joining me as we explored this fascinating data today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.